we have been in the last two sessions, we have been talking about relationships between human beings, the various feelings that are there between a human being and a human being, which can be identified and fulfilled in our relationships. Let's start this session with a small activity. So I want you all to give your inputs let's do a quick recap. Let's spend some time because we have covered a lot of content from the goal to program to self-verification tool and then human being, self and body, then in the self, then relationship with the body, then relationship between self and self. So we often tend to get overwhelmed and there's so much information and recap is always helpful. So I just want you to keep giving these inputs as I ask these questions. So let's summarize what we have looked at till now. Okay. So first one, what is the basic aspiration of a human being? Please enter your inputs in the chat window. Okay. Yes. Continuity is also important. So continuous happiness and prosperity. So that was the proposal we made about the basic aspiration of a human being. So be it any being, whether it's you or your wife or your parents or your child or me or anybody else, fundamentally every human being, we all want to be happy and have a sense of prosperity. So we would need all the physical facilities we need, and we need them in continuity, not just for some time, but we need them continuously. This is the goal that we all are trying to achieve. Everything that we do is basically aimed at achieving this goal of having that harmony within me. So happiness. So let me ask then the second point. How do we define happiness? In short, what is happiness? Can somebody type what is happiness? Harmony in oneself and in participation also. That is all the levels, participation at all levels. That is happiness. So wherever I am, so I live in harmony within myself. There needs to be a state of liking, that state of harmony within me, and in also whichever situation I am, I should have harmony in me. So this harmony within oneself is the key thing to happiness, and then the continuity of it also is important. So that is the happiness. So then my next question is, what is prosperity? Feeling of having more than required physical facilities. Correct. So the feeling of having, feeling of abundance, more than needs, more than required, feeling of having more than need, knowing what we need. Yes, knowing what we need is a part of it, but having more than what we need, the feeling, that's what is important. So the feeling of having more than required physical facilities is happiness. So the feeling is important, not actually having the facilities. Somebody may get the feeling with less number of facilities, somebody may get it with more number of facilities and money and assets. So, but what is important is actually getting this feeling that I know what I need and then I am able to achieve those needs. Then the next point is, what is the program to achieve the aspiration? So program for achieving the goal. Right understanding. Yes, right understanding is part of it, but right understanding and living with that right understanding also. We usually miss out on this part. So right understanding and then living also. Living with harmony at all levels of my existence. Yes. So you all mentioned right understanding. That is very nice. So right understanding is required, and actually with that right understanding, living with in harmony at all the levels of my being is also important. Yes. Then, so that's the program of achieving the goal. Then we spoke about self-verification, but so let's say in the self-verification, let's understand the self-verification process. So in this, my first question is, what is the first check? The check of in self-verification. What is the first check that we are doing? Whenever we get a proposal, what are we doing with that proposal? When we get a proposal, yes, checking for natural acceptance. That's the first check. Then the next check is, what is the next check in the self-verification process? So first, whenever we get a proposal, we have to validate if this is naturally acceptable to me or not. Yes. Then after checking for natural acceptance, what happens when we live by it? In relationships, what does it lead to? It is supposed to lead to, when we live by a proposal, in relationships, what is the proposal supposed to lead to? In relationships, it need to lead to mutual happiness. And in interactions with nature, what is it supposed to lead to? In interaction with nature, when I live with this proposal, interaction with nature, what is it supposed to lead to? Yeah, harmony, but specifically with nature, mutual prosperity has been mentioned. So that means I am not disturbing the nature, and also I am also benefiting out of it. So I'm not destroying nature, exploiting nature, etc. But I am also able to cater to the needs of my body without disturbing the cycles in the nature. So any proposal, first check that we do is that whether it is naturally acceptable to me. And then when I live according by it, in relationships, it should lead to mutual happiness. And in interactions with nature, that is actually in relationships, this is called as behavior. When we are interacting in relationships, that's called behavior. In living with nature, it's called work. So in interaction with nature, that is when we work with nature, it leads to mutual prosperity. That's the self-verification process. Then we went on to understand the human being in more detail. So what is a human being? Is a coexistence of self and body. Yes. So human being is a coexistence of self and body, right? Um, then we saw that what is the need of self? What is the need of self? Yes. Yeah, continuous happiness, trust, satisfaction, right understanding, and right feelings for understanding, clarity. Yeah. So we said the needs of self are things like happiness, respect, trust, etc. in continuity. Then full fulfillment. What is the fulfillment possibility? How do we fulfill these needs? Fulfillment of needs. How can we do the fulfillment of the needs of self? The needs of the self are various, like the state of happiness and the feelings like trust, respect, contentment, clarity. All these are the needs of the self, right? So how do we fulfill these needs? How are we supposed to? I mean, the right way to fulfill the needs, let me call it. Right way to fulfill the needs of the self is right. Yeah, some of you are typing right understanding and right feelings. Correct. So when we have the right understanding in ourselves, and we have the right feelings in us, this is the way to fulfill the needs of self. This is the the proposal is this is the right way and the only way to properly fulfill the needs of the self, by having the right understanding within us, aligning with our natural acceptance, identifying our innate nature, and living by swattva. That is the way to fulfill. And then when we do that, we have the right feelings in us, in our participation with in behavior, in relationships, etc. So that's the way to fulfill the needs of the self. And then let's continue. Maybe let's continue below. So the next question I have is, what are the needs of body? What are the needs of body? Yes. So food, clothing, shelter, facilities, etc. are the needs of the body. And then, yes. So a lot of you have typed it correct. So food, clothing, shelter, sleep, etc. Alankar, that's an interesting one. Okay. Ahar, Avas, and Alankar. Okay, we'll discuss about Alankar. Maybe that's a nice thing to take up. So the Alankar is for the body or is it for the self? So I understand, like when you're talking about things like, this is an interesting thing that you triggered. So when we are wearing or decorating the body in a particular way, is the body becoming more healthier by doing that, or are we doing it for ourselves? So somebody mentioned in the chat window that Alankar is required. So what do you mean by Alankar? Maybe Prabhulalji, can you unmute and talk about what you mean by Alankar?
Anything for decoration to be happy.
So okay, so you're not talking about clothes. So typically, alankar may come under clothes also, which may lead to protection of the body. So you're not talking about nurturing or protection or right utilization. You're actually talking about making the self happy by wearing some kind of jewelry or these kind of things, right? So what is that? Where is it catering to? The alankar is catering to the body, or is it catering to the self?
It's getting to the body, and in turn making self happy.
How is it catering to the body? It is on the body, of course.
Yeah.
It is attached to the body, but it is catering to the self, right? That's to make the self happy, make the self get some feelings from others, or make the get self receive some attention, etc. That's what, or just a full whatever self image you have or somebody has, to fulfill that. That's where the alankar is used for. But that's not for the body, right? That's not the need of the body. It is actually you're trying to fulfill the need of the self using a physical entity, using a physical facility. So that's our next point. We'll come to that. But alankar is not actually the need of the body. It is we are catering the need of the self using alankar, right? Yes. So food, clothing, shelter, facilities, gadgets, etc. are the needs of the body. And what is the right fulfillment of the needs of body? So nurturing, protection, it's the same thing, right? Nurturing, protection, and right utilization. So I request everybody to type in, although some of them are typing, but if everybody type, then I will get a sense of like how many of you are able to relate to whatever content we are presenting, how many of you are getting the content. We will be able to get a better hold of that. So request everybody to type in, although there will be repetition, I understand, but please go ahead and type your answers. So the next question I have is, where do I put this? So physical facilities, fulfilling the needs of self. Is it possible, or is it the right way or not the right way? Physical facilities, fulfilling the needs of self. Is it the right way or not the right way to fulfill the needs of self? Okay. Not the right way. Okay. Great. So that's about the self and body, important points in self and body. In the right way, we already said the fulfilling the needs of the self is by right understanding and right feelings. So yeah, thank you. So not right way, not right way. Okay. So the next question I have is, then we went on to the self, right? What are the 3 ways which we get the desires from? In harmony in self, in understanding the harmony in self, we said the 3 ways desires come from. What are those 3 ways? I request everybody to type in your answers. Okay. So the 3 ways the desires can come into us are from sensation, preconditioning, or the natural acceptance. Yes. Satis. Sensation preconditioning. Sensation preconditioning, natural acceptance. Yes, natural acceptance. Yes, preconditioning and sensations. Correct. Yes. Wonderful. Thank you. The thoughts are part of the analysis. So some of you have written thoughts, and yes, so thoughts also may trigger the desires, but thought is just a means to trigger the desires. Ultimately, the trigger would come either, like, the main trigger is from either the sensation, preconditioning, or natural acceptance. But you're technically right, so I'll add thought also there, because when we think about something and then eventually that also, it's part of the preconditioning. So we take an input in the form of a sensation, and then we think about it, and then that leads to a desire. Or when somebody says something in the form of preconditioning, we think about it, and that becomes our desire. So yes, it is a combination of desire, thought, expectation that is going on. So let me ask that also. What are the activities in the self? So next question is, what are the activities going on in self continuously? We mentioned about the 3 activities that are continuously going on in self. What are the 3 activities that are going on continuously in self? Thinking is just one of the activities. So desiring, thinking, and expectations. All 3 are going on continuously. Thoughts, expectations, and desires, all 3 are going on continuously. Yes. So what is the what is the right way of desire? So if you have a lot of desires, ultimately what these desires should align with? Desires should align with yes. Some of you have typed it. I hope the others are also typing. Yes. Natural acceptance. Correct. So we have desires coming in from sensation and preconditioning, etc. So, I mean, it's okay to get desires from all over. So, for example, whatever we are talking in the form of this workshop is also an input to you. So that preconditioning that we are getting is all input that we are getting. It could come from books, it could come from others, it could come from parents, teachers, society, media. It could come from everywhere, right? But ultimately, whether we are filtering all these inputs and verifying with our natural acceptance, whether it leads to harmony in myself or not, that we are calling it as natural acceptance. So these desires should align with eventually the natural acceptance, then that these become the right desires. Okay, so that's about the harmony in self, the main points in the harmony in self. Then we went on to see the body. So what is the feeling of responsibility towards my body? What is the feeling of responsibility towards my body? No, I'm talking about the feeling. So what we do towards a body is actually nurturing and caring. Yes. So when we are talking about the feeling, the feeling that I am responsible for taking care of my body, that we gave the name as Sanyam or self-regulation. Yes, Sanyam. We said Sanyam, and as part of Sanyam, what we do in Sanyam is nurturing and protection and right utilization. Okay, just give me a second, please. Some technical issue. Yes, nurturing, protection, and right utilization is what we do towards our body. And that feeling of doing, my responsibility, that this body is, I am responsible for my own body. I need to protect it. I need to nurture it, and I need to rightly utilize it. That feeling that I have towards my body, we refer to it as Sayam. Then we went on to the relationships part. After understanding our relationship with body, we went on to the relationships between human beings. So just give me a second, I will relaunch this. Okay, the sharing should be back by now. I hope you're able to see it. So let's continue this. Then the next thing was harmony in family. So the where are the feelings in a relationship? The relationship is between yes, it is between oneself and the other self. Yes. Now let's list down the feelings first. I will then ask you about these. Trust. We said there are 9 feelings in relationships, and we have to, if we identify and fulfill these relationships in our relationships, these feelings, then it leads to harmony in relationships. So the first one we said was trust, then respect, affection, care, guidance, reverence, glory, gratitude, and love. Okay, let's start with trust. So okay, nice. Somebody has already. I was thinking, how should I ask if you're going to type the whole thing or not? But yes, what is trust? Trust is the assurance that the other wants me to be happy. So, to be able to see the trust, what are we supposed to see? The intention of the other or the competence of the other? to have this feeling of assurance that the other wants me to be happy, are we missing on seeing the intention? So, okay, let me ask, what are we supposed to look at? Our proposal is to look at the intention of the other, or is it to look at the competence of the other? Yeah, so we are missing on looking at the intention of the other. So if we are able to see the intention of the other, then the feeling of trust will follow. If we look at the competence of the other, then the competence may be high and low, but just like we are also making mistakes, sometimes the other also may be making mistakes sometimes. So maybe I will, for these important feelings, I will request one of you to unmute and say, let's say JP Kumarji, can you please tell your point about trust?
Sir, trust is nothing but if you understand the competence in others, you will take the responsibility to correct him.
Yes, that's fine. But what we are looking at, so to get the feeling of trust, whether we have to look at the intention of the other or the competence of the other.
We should look at competency.
Yeah. So if we look at the competency of the other, the competency may be there or may not be there. But whether we have the assurance on the intention of the other is trust. So if we are sure that the intention of the other is always correct, always going to be good, that is when we will have the feeling of trust. So when we are getting angry at somebody, or when somebody is not able to meet our expectations, that means we are looking at the competence of the person. We are not able to see the intention of the other person. The intention of the other person is correct. So but there may be gaps in the competence of the other. So for example, you asked somebody for something. For example, let me take an example of a classroom. For example, the student may be able to listen to the teacher or may not be able to listen to the teacher, but the intention of the student is not to make the teacher unhappy. He is not able to concentrate, he is not able to he or she is not able to pay attention, is distracted, not focused. There could be 100 reasons why they are not able to pay attention to the teacher, but the intention of the student is not to make the teacher unhappy. They have their own issues. So if we understand this point, then we can be empathetic towards why is this student not able to focus. How can I help this student, become more focused in the class? I can focus on that part. So this is a very important thing to understand. So also I request, like, if any of you had any interesting instances in your life in the last 2 days, after having a look at trust this way, can you go ahead and share? Does anybody want to share any experience of looking at trust this way, in when you are actually living in your relationships? Do you have any instances, any interesting observations to share? I know some of you are sharing in the discussion sessions, but I think around 30-40 of you are not part of the discussion session. So if you want to share, or if you have any questions also, that's also okay. Regarding the trust, is this clear? Because this is very important. This is one of the important takeaways from the workshop, that any person has two aspects to them. That is, one is the intention part or the competence gap. So the intention will never be, there will never be a gap in the intention, because by make, that is, innately every human being wants to be happy. So this is a proposal, but there is no way to prove this proposal. This is only going to be realized over reflection, over looking into deep within ourselves, and being able to see that because I am like this, this is innately there in me, and in every human being it will be like that. So the intention that I want to see everybody happy, just like it is there in me innately, it is there in every human being. When we are able to see that, then we can clearly see that the intention will never be at fault. The intention will always be pointing every human being towards the right direction, that is to make the others happy. That person may be conditioned that, you need to do this is the right thing, so go hit somebody, go kill somebody. People may be conditioned, but the innate nature within every human being, if you can look in our close relationships also.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Naresh.
Suman, Naresh, I observe that my wife sometimes shouts my children something they did. I understand her intention is okay, but her competence is not to explain them. A little bit she has improved. I understand like that.
Yeah.
Is it right, sir?
Yeah. That's the case with all. Yes, that you're looking at it in the right way. So it's not that because we don't want to make the kids explain in any other way. Sometimes we are just helpless. I mean, we don't know what to do. That's why we behave in such a way. If we have a solution, if we have a solution on how to approach relationships, obviously we will take the most harmonious way. But often what happens is we become helpless. We don't know what to do, and then we get frustrated and worked up, and then do that anger and shouting, etc., etc. And in that moment, we lose the doubt on the intention of the other.
Yeah.
So if we are continuously able to see that the intention of the other is there, then even if we are shouting, we are losing. We are actually having a doubt on the intention of that person at that moment. It is we are not recognizing that the competence of that person is what is making them behave that way. So I can either try to improve if possible, or at least I don't have to get angry, or I don't have to get restless or stressed up, is what we will realize. So if your spouse is shouting at somebody, or I actually shouldn't comment on your spouse, but you can tell for yourself. When you shout at somebody, you see whether you lost the trust on the intention of the person or not. This is a very important thing to observe, and you try it not necessarily on the shouting or these sudden moments. Like for example, recently there is one instance. So somebody has to give money to some other person. So instead of 10,000, they gave only 8,000. So they gave it to some. Can you please mute everybody so that there's no disturbance for everybody? Yeah, thank you. So instead of 10,000, only 8,000 rupees came. Now the question is whether they really gave 8,000 or the 2,000 was lost on the way. Somebody carried those. Now there was so much struggle. Should we ask them? Should we not ask them? So if we doubted the intention of the other, that they deliberately did that, our approach would be different. But if we just want to clarify by mistake, did it happen, or why did it happen, then the issue got resolved immediately. But if we doubt on the intention, we will keep thinking, planning of revenge, or that next time when I get an opportunity, I will also do this. Or there could be any number of ways in which we respond if we doubt the intention of the other. I gave my own example, right? So when I said hi to somebody and that other person did not respond, I immediately started thinking that, okay, this fellow is like this. This happened with one of the teachers also. So once I was going down the stairs, the teacher was walking up, my professor actually. I said, "Good morning, sir." He looked into my eyes, so I thought he cannot miss it. But he didn't respond. I was worried. Did I do something wrong in the class? Why is the professor seems to be upset? Then again the same thing. So I don't want to doubt the intention. So I just went and said, "Sir, sorry, I didn't understand. So I just wished you, but you didn't respond. So I thought I did some mistake. So please let me know if I did something." He said, "Oh no, there is some issue going in my house. I did not even see you wishing me." But all that time, from the moment we said hi, wish that professor, till I got clarification, there is so much agitation or disturbance going on in me, because I was not sure about the intention of the professor. So that way, the intention of every human being is actually to make us happy, but because of their own situations or circumstances, they keep behaving differently. So it's because of their competence. We have to recognize that. Yeah, anybody else? Shadab, do you have anything to say?
One question.
So good morning, sir. I
One,
have a small question.
1 second, Sandhya, madam. Shadab is speaking. So after.
Yeah. So one question I have is, so we talk about patience and tolerance and all these things, right? So where do they actually come in? So, like for example, sometimes what happens is, when someone is a mother and grown up, so we tend to expect her to be competent. We may be over expecting competent to handle children and all. But when we realize that don't she even know how to handle, or why isn't she competent enough, we tend to get angry, even though intention may be correct. So there probably this patience and tolerance needs to come into the picture. So now when I put this patience and tolerance in perspective with these 9 feelings, how do I fit in these two with what we are discussing here?
Yeah, the nice point actually, Shadab. So there is we have to recognize, we acknowledge that there is a lack of competence in others. So Shadab, maybe you can go on mute because there's some disturbance.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So we acknowledge there is some lack of competence on anybody's point. Even in our case, of course we try to be perfect. We think that we are trying to be perfect. So there is everything that I'm trying to be, and I'm trying to make everybody happy. So I'm doing my best. The other would also be thinking the same way. I'm also doing my best. But the thing is our expectation from the other, they're not able to meet our expectations. So it's a matter of competence, right? So once we recognize that the competence of the other is not to the level we are expecting, first thing is, if we have the trust on the intention, then we have a sense of relationship. The relationship is not broken first. There's no bitterness in the relationship. If there is bitterness in the relationship, we can't even work on that competence. If we doubt the intention of the other person, then this bitterness comes in the relationship. So we lose. This person is like this. This person doesn't even want to improve. They're not even interested in listening. They don't even want to understand. These kind of things we start concluding if we are not able to see the fact that their intention is good. And regarding your point of tolerance or patience, so yeah, you're right that as this building of competence takes time, we will need some level of tolerance and patience, etc., while that is being developed in the other. But it's a matter of our competence also to even explain and increase the competence of the other. That also we should recognize. So if we really have the competence, we can explain these things in a better way, in the right way to the other also. As of now, we lack this competence. So we think that, but just by telling in words or, telling that this is not the way to handle the child, we have already explained it. But that is not reaching the other in the way it is supposed to reach. So there is some level of competence lacking in us also on how to improve on the other, how to help the other build their competence. So we can try to work on that part of ourselves. So we will definitely have to be patient. So for example, there may be family members, even after attending all these workshops, and many of you are trying to get your spouses and family members into this workshop. I'm telling you, it may take even 10 years, 15 years for even to convince the family member to join this workshop or learn about this knowledge. So all this in the meantime, what are we doing? We have to be patient. We have to be patient. First thing is, we have to show it in our living also. Show it in our living, not for proving a point to the other. It's for ourselves, that we have to work on ourselves. There is so much understanding that I need to build in myself and improve in myself. There is so much scope for improvement for myself. And in the process, if I'm able to maintain this fulfillment in relationships, the other may get into a mode of listening towards me, may get into a mode of willingness to learn something from me, is the possibility that opens up. But if I'm in this mode that, okay, I have understood everything, the other person is not interested in listening, this is a bigger issue actually we have seen with people attending these workshops also, that I have understood something great and you have no idea about what this great thing is. So I know much more than you. You better listen to me. This is the kind of attitude we have seen in people attending, and it is because the content is so wonderful and we have listened to this. We think that we have understood it completely and we know a lot. But actually, living by this is the real test for this content. So that is what we are all trying or in the journey of, that living by this question is living, when we start living by this content, that is the actual result. That is the point when we can say we have really understood something. When I'm having a feeling of trust towards people in relationships, when I am not like taking physical facilities for entertaining myself, and there is harmony in myself by itself, when I'm taking care, nurturing of my body, and when I have a sense of respect towards people, this is the kind of competence we need to build in ourselves. And not always, even with all the effort, the other may still take time to improve their competence. But there's nothing we could do about it. I mean, we can keep trying and keep trying and keep trying, but everybody has their own journey. That is also something we should remember, that first of all, let's get us as individuals get comfortable within us, and then we can support the other in any possible way. But there is no guarantee that just because we are working on the other's competence, that it will definitely improve or happen. So, but there is no way out also. This is the only way to go forward, to improve in ourselves and to facilitate the other to improve also. This is what we have to go.
Sir, this is Kusuma. I mean, want to ask on the extension of the same question which previous person have asked. So if it is, I mean, if they're already in a relation, I mean, wife and husband, what you said will be implied, or if they're starting, I mean, if they're somebody new who are just starting to understand, also has the same answer. I mean, will that also relate to this? Or, okay, those both are not matching each other. Okay, let this quit. We can't take this kind of mentalities or whatever. I mean, how should the thinking be, you say?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. If there is an option to quit, so then should we take that option, is what we are saying. But the point is,
option to quit, not. But I mean, like, I mean, previously what you explained, I understand. It's between two people who are already in relation. So they might have already went to long duration. I mean, they might have seen it, understood little bit or whatever. And what you told, we can understand. But if it is something which are two new people they are starting, and how they have to look into what you are saying, sir?
Yeah, I mean, actually, even before marriage. So what, most of the suggestions that we got or we are given is that actually before marriage itself, or before getting into a relationship itself, if both the individuals have this common vision or the common way of looking at right understanding and living by this right understanding, that makes the life a lot easier. But that is not always possible for everybody. So we are always already in relationships, and like, for example, my mother or my father, I can't choose, right? So I'm already in a relationship with my mother or father, and their own competence is whatever they have. So growing together is the only option in any relationship, is what I would suggest. So whether it is a newly forming relationship or whether it is a relationship. So if the relationship has already been for quite some time, then we know more about each other. So there could be more about each other, or there is already more conclusions also about each other. Both ways it is possible. We cannot tell whether where it is already more strong or more weak. But what is definitely true is that the competence aspect, both of us, I mean, if whoever is involved in the relationship if we work together towards each other's competence, help each other in improving competence, then that's the best way to go about it. And whether it is the starting of the relationship or a matured relationship, I think it doesn't make any difference, if I understand correctly.
So, good morning, sir. I have a small question.
Yes, Sandhya ji.
So, my question is, see, as you have told, we might have the intention, and we might, try and get the right understanding of the situation. We might even
Mhm.
have the patience to pursue that and, understand that the other person doesn't have the competence, and we are like, being patient with that person. But we always, when we try to be patient, also we become impulsive suddenly, and then we blurt out something, and then we realize
Yeah.
that, and then we try to be patient and explain. But by the time we
Mhm.
have lost that person is not listening to
Yeah.
us anymore. So what do we
Yes.
do in that case?
I mean, it'll take its own sweet time, but again, there will
Uh-huh.
definitely be opportunities as long as our feelings
because
towards
this
the other.
happens with because this happens with adolescents. Like, I have an adolescent daughter, and you
Mhm.
know what, like, I become very impulsive most of the time. Like, I know, that she is competent enough to understand what I'm saying, but I act impulsively. But by the time I put across what I want to say, I have lost her. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
you're right.
yeah.
That's
So
true.
so how do we practice? I want to know that.
So, I mean, there are many ways of practicing this, ma'am. Some people are practicing it by a methodology called, affirmation, positive affirmation. So every day in the morning. So whatever works. So, for example, for me, reading the content. Can you please go mute, please, Ravinderji? There is some disturbance. Uh, Ravinderji, can you please go on mute? Thank you. Yeah. So, for many of us, so like for example, after attending this workshop, many of us will forget this content. We lose the habit of reflecting upon it, and so the best way to keep this content going on within us is to create a recurring thing, whatever it is. Like for example, some of my friends I know, they sit in a 15-minute reflection at 2-3 times a day. Okay, so that helps them. So it's like a recharge for 15 minutes. If they sit, then they will be at more in a more balanced manner for 3-4 hours. So that person sits again, sometime around the noon for 15 minutes, taking out some time, and then he's again balanced for the next 3-4 hours. So every day, every person has their individual approach. So for me, reflecting upon this content, reading the book helps me keep remembering this content and living by these proposals. For somebody else, it could be different. So this we have to inculcate into our schedule, whatever works. So just like physical, exercise, somebody does yoga, right? Somebody does running, somebody does something else to maintain the body. We'll have to maintain these reflections and these thoughts within us also, in the self also. We shouldn't lose these. This is also a matter of practice. It's not like once we have heard, then it is set right for the rest of our life. That doesn't happen. So whatever
Understood, sir.
works for you, yeah, please pick up a schedule or pick up something that is recurring every day, and to reflect upon this content, whether it is a reminder in the phone, or there are so many applications to do these things. And as far as going back to the person is concerned, the relationship between a mother and child is so strong that the other doesn't really close off. That temporarily for a day or a few hours, that shutting down may happen, but it is not. It doesn't last long. So as long as we are apologetic and we are ready to listen to the other, and we are trying to work on ourselves, if the other is able to see that, I'm sure that there will be enough scope for working with each other in a parent-child relationship.
Hello. Good morning,
Yeah.
all of you. And
Yes, ma'am.
moreover, like if you're missing, like something is really going wrong in the relationship, maybe we have to focus on the 9 values, right? Maybe something is missing there. So that's the reason we are not able to patch up. Like maybe respect is missing, or maybe something. Like when we yell at someone, they don't, even though he or she is my son or daughter, they may not like it, right? So we understand that
Yeah.
we are yelling at them. It's because of some kind of again lack of understanding in ourselves, and we are showing it on them. And that is a matter of respect, right? We don't at that moment we are losing the respect for themselves. That's the reason they don't want to listen to us. Maybe if we are
Yes.
working on those 9 values and we are focusing where are we losing it, then maybe next time we can uh, do well with them, right?
Yes, ma'am,
Yes.
absolutely right. Yeah. So it is because of our lack in our incompetence that we are losing our temper and losing the right feelings towards the other. Even if it is for one moment or for a few minutes,
Yeah.
we have lost that. So we can work on ourselves on how do we keep these feelings right
Yeah.
within us, even independent of what's going on around us, whether it is a child or in the
So
office or in the society when we are interacting with some
yeah,
shopkeeper. Could
yeah.
it could happen
Yeah,
anywhere.
sorry. So if it is no, mostly we take our relationships for granted. If it's a child, no, we think that parent is having more dominance or more control over the child, so we can talk and we can behave and we can say whatever we want when we are angry. So it's not like that. So even though it is a child or whatever, whoever he is, everybody needs respect and love and care according to the natural acceptance. So if we act consciously and if we work on ourselves and we focus what are the things we are missing on the relationship, maybe sometimes it can help us, right?
Yeah,
So that's
correct. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we'll all have to work on ourselves. Even I'm working, even everybody's working. It's not like we are all perfect beings. We are all working on it.
Good. Suman, am I audible? I want to share.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead, Hari.
Yeah. So I want to share a little bit of my experience and these conversations are going on. Let's say in the context of whether my behavior is inappropriate, that is shouting or whatever, or somebody related to me, that is my wife or child, they are behaving wrongly. In both these cases, in that context, I want to share my thing, my insight, actually what I understood. So first of all, let us park this problem and just say like this. Let's say we have some problem in the body. Let's say I'm coughing every day. So I'm trying to get rid of this problem, but so frequently I cough. There is a cough. I'm doing this, let's say 20 times, 30 times a day. That is one problem. Similarly, let us say my wife is doing that. Let's say she is coughing, so many times. So at that time, what will be your approach, right? Immediately, what do we think? Am I intentionally doing it, or is my wife doing it? When in the case of body, it is very clear to us that there is some issue, some disharmony, some disturbance in the body. Body got little disturbed, so that's why it is, coughing. That's why this sensation is there, right? So in my introspection, in my deep reflection and practices, what I understood is this: if I am reacting, right, I wake up and doing some work, and in between a child comes, then I'm getting irritated. This irritation is like my cough. The way body problem is that this is a self problem. The problem is at the level of myself. There is already a lot of contradiction in me. If I look at my desire, thought, expectation, the self activity that is going on, that is not in harmony. It is not in harmony, and somebody puts a finger there, they get shocked. The shock is in the form of shouting or yelling, right? So that is how I am at that time, but I am not aware. So I blame the child who actually came and he was trying to talk to me. That the child trying to talk to me, I call my side as disturbance. He disturbed me, that's why I showed anger. Whereas the problem is within me. What is my current state of activity, current state level of harmony inside me? So I started working more and more, being in harmony. What kind of thought process going on inside me? Is it contradicting? Is it in accordance with the nature? So I started paying attention more and more and more on it, and so much of time I'm in the harmonious state. Actually many things do not disturb me anymore. My behavior, and then overall my capacity to work on things, in fact my productivity has improved, because so much of nonsense is gone in the mind, and now I am using the mind in much better place. You can see I'm doing the regular job, giving time here, also giving time for family, extended family, like that. My capacity got doubled, Right? Similarly, when such things happen by children, my own children, my wife, or any other person, so at that time, I'm able to see this. First of all, they are related to me, right? So when they have physical problem, how sympathetic we are, right? And that too, a physical problem which is there for 6 months, right? You're trying all kinds of medicines, went to 10 doctors, even then the problem is not subsidized. How worried you will be, and you will do anything for that. Same thing, you know that there is a self-will problem, right? This person is shouting or yelling or not able to sleep properly, means there is a contradiction. There is some pain in the self, and that person is related to me, is my own wife, my child, my brother, my sister. What am I doing about it? Instead, I'm complaining, you are coughing all the day. It's not coughing, right? Right. So and what, but how can I help? I'm just saying that don't shout. Don't shout will not help. There is a contradiction already in their thoughts. It may be because of, some issues they have with others or whatever, right? But now I cannot help them because I don't know a way to help myself. So in the process of this self development, when I am able to develop myself and worked out certain processes, whether it is morning affirmations, practicing more and more intense awareness about what is going on inside me, filtering and removing all many preconditions that are there in me, operating more at the level of natural acceptance. Now I improved myself 10%, 20%, 30%. Now I know how to improve. A method I know, and with that in my hand, I am equipped with this method. That means I know a doctor, I know a medicine through which the cough can come down. Similarly, now I can suggest this doctor, this method to the other person. Again, whether other person listen, again it depends, right? When he sees that my coughing went down, definitely other person will listen. So in fact, the other person shouting, we are only just concerned about my wife shouting on the child. In fact, the bigger worry should be, she's my own wife, she looks like disturbance inside me. I should have much deeper concern. In fact, the shouting can happen just 3 times 4 times in a day, but my bigger concern should be, instead of shouting, that my wife is, it seems like a pain. As a husband, what is my responsibility, what can I do? That should be much deeper concern. And for doing anything, I have to work on myself. Only when there is some significant transformation in me, right, only I will be able to do. So this is what I want to add. Everything again goes back to self level. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful, Harigar. Thank you for sharing. So yeah, like Hariji said, empathizing with the other, that the other is also having their own conditioning and conflicts just like us, and trying to understand, help them in whatever possible way is the only way out. Helping each other, that's growing together. Yeah. So okay.
Hello. Can I?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I ask you some more thing extension to that one?
Sure. Actually, we are running out of time. I wanted to introduce something, but yeah, please go ahead. One last question. Yes.
So we say that, like, instead of taking care of a partner, since the partner is yelling at the children, so we say that how, like, we are getting disturbed by when she is yelling at the children. So we keep saying, how many times we keep saying that one? What is that limit? See, as a concern, like, we may get disturbed, and then we understand we can correct ourselves, so we have some tools. So that way we will tell her that to understand, like, no, not this is the way. But still, if they don't listen, how many times we can? What is the limit? So instead of that, I feel sometimes it's a better, I cannot change in that way. I can't change a partner. Change the partner means it doesn't mean that way. I can't the behavior. But what she is doing wrong, and also on top of it, I'm also doing the wrong, yelling at her. So I can keep quiet by managing myself. But that doesn't mean that if I'm keeping quiet, she is right. But at the same time, she is also not changing. How can we handle? Like, this is that I feel like, I don't get into this, let her shout, and then let me keep it calm that way. But the thing which is going is also not correct. I cannot change it. What should I do?
Yeah, that's what exactly what Hariji responded to. Yeah, can you please go ahead and mute yourself? Yeah, thank you. So that's exactly the situation Hariji was just responding to. What he was suggesting is, if there is a health issue for our spouse, we are so concerned because we are able to see it in the body, in it, and in her health. Whereas if the issue is in the self, so if the spouse is shouting at the child or not able to behave properly towards the child or even yourself, then the reason is some issue in the self, right? Just like we have some issues in the self, the spouse also has some issues in herself. So what he is suggesting is try to empathize. First of all, feel the pain. Are we feeling the pain that the spouse is going through something which is making her shout at the child? How can I help my spouse so that she can come out of this pain within her? So that is what is one of the approaches to look at this situation, so that we can work together as wife and husband and improve each other. But also he also said that I can help the other only when I work on myself first. Usually we see that the other is always making. It's easy to identify and pick the mistakes that are being done by the other, but we don't look at our own mistakes. Maybe we are also making n number of mistakes. Right. So first of all, let's improve ourselves, and then and be empathetic to the other, that there is something going on in the self of the other which is making them behave in this way. So how can I help help improve the other? That is the next stage. First stage is to improve ourselves in our understanding and in our feelings towards others. So for example, you said the argument point. This was an important point which was touched upon in the morning also, that in an argument, when we are trying to win an argument, we are losing the relationship. So we try to win the arguments that I am correct, I am correct, I am correct. In this process of winning the argument, we are losing relationships in the first place. So because we all come from different upbringings, different ways of looking at things, our approach towards children may be different from the spouse's approach towards children. We should recognize that first. And if we recognize that, then we are open to possibilities that she may deal with the children in a different way. I may deal with the children in a different way, and as long as the relationship is not broken, like not broken in the sense there is no talking anymore, no exchange of ideas, no exchange of likes. So especially after the stage when the children are coming in, what is one thing that is noticed is the wife and husband are not exchanging any likes and dislikes. I like this food, I like that movie, I like this thing. There's not much exchange of feelings going on. So the bridge of communication to share each other's likes, each other's feelings, and discuss about various things, learn from each other. That relationship, that if only when that bridge is there, we can help each other improve, right? If that bridge is broken because of the arguments that I am winning, my ideology is better than your ideology about parenting. In this whole argument, if that relationship is broken, we cannot improve each other. We cannot learn from each other and help each other in growing. So it's an important thing. So very small things we keep very adamant that for example, this is the only way to feed the child. I keep saying that this is the only way to feed the child. My wife thinks that her way is the best way to feed the child. In this whole process of deciding on which is the best way to feed the child, my relationship with my wife, it is broken to the extent that I can't even talk to her. Then there are 100 other topics to discuss and decide on parenting or any other thing related to life. So am I breaking this relationship to the extent that I'm not talking to my wife anymore? There is no exchange of feelings, no flow of emotions at all. Let's think about that point, because this is a situation that many of us are facing. So always please remember that if, for example, let's put the sofa in this direction or that direction, that's a pure matter of taste. It doesn't matter eventually whether it's this way or that way. But in this process, if we are losing that relationship with the wife to decide whether the sofa needs to be put this side or that side, then we are giving priority to taste over our own relationship. So the relationship is a very of higher value than things like taste and color, like for example, this color cloth shirt I should wear or that color shirt I should wear is a matter of taste, right? It doesn't really matter at the end of the day what color shirt we wear. But what is more important is that value of that, that relationship with the other is more important than this small matters of taste. So it's okay to just let go of few things as per the taste of the other. The other will also give us space to for our own likes. There will be space for little bit of likes of each other as long as we are willing to listen to the likes and dislikes of the other. So yeah, let's keep that space open with our spouses so that there is dialogue, there is scope for growth in our relationships. Okay, actually only 15 minutes is left. I wanted to start the topic of society today. We'll complete this review tomorrow again. Let's spend some more time and let me start the topic of society. We'll continue that revision in the first 15 minutes of next session. We have seen about relationships, about individual human relationships. Then once we start feeling related to people within our family, then we can see the sense of relationship expand beyond our family also. So that's when the harmony in society comes into picture. So for understanding the harmony in society, the first thing that we need to understand is what is the goal of this human civilization? I mean, all of us together as humans, where are we headed towards? What is the ultimate goal of us, all of us living together? Individual goal we identified, that why every person needs to become happy and prosperous. That's the goal of every human being. But as a society, what is our goal in living together? What is the goal of this civilization? So there the proposal is, first thing is right understanding in every individual. Second aspect is prosperity in every family. Third thing is fearlessness in society. And fourth thing is coexistence in nature. So as a human civilization, the proposal that we are putting in front of you is that we want to see right understanding in every individual. So every person needs to achieve that state of right understanding. Every family needs to be prosperous, and in society there should be fearlessness. And in nature, we should be living with coexistence without exploitation of nature. We should be living in a coexistence with nature. This is the goal of human. This is one proposal. So if we have these things, is there anything else that we would want beyond these, more than this? If we are able to achieve as a society this state where there is right understanding in every individual, there is prosperity in every family, that means all the physical facilities that are required for the family are available, and more than what is required is available. And in society, there is fearlessness. Fearlessness means there is no fear of how the other will behave with me, no fear of going anywhere, talking to somebody, fear of doing something. There's no fear. There is fearlessness in the society. That means there is a lot of trust in the society. And as human beings, we are not exploiting nature or dominating nature or depleting the nature, but actually living in coexistence with the nature. This is the comprehensive human goal, and if we are able to achieve this as a human race, is there anything beyond this? Maybe just the continuity of this is what we would need if we are able to achieve this. So generation after generation, we would want to achieve the continuity of this. That's all we would want beyond this, right? And to achieve this human goal, 5 dimensions are proposed in the society. So let me write those, or the program to achieve this goal. So one aspect of the program is education and sanskar. So education is to provide right understand, to understand the harmony at all 4 levels. So right understanding of all levels of living. That is the education. We also saw this about what is the right education in yesterday's session, right? Where we presented saying that education is not just about getting the right job, not just about getting marks, and not just about being literate. So for example, very funny thing, I was searching in the Google for right education, how the world is looking at the word right education, and everywhere it is coming about right to education, right to education, right to education. Yes, we are working on right to education, and that is also important, but that is only going to improve the literacy rate. But literacy is not education. Literacy means ability to like read, write, know some skills, etc. That is literacy. But education which we are talking here, is a very higher thing, that we all need to achieve the right understanding, the system which will ensure right understanding in individuals about all 4 levels of living, that we are calling as education. And sanskar is the right living part. So this right understanding that we have, actually living it out, that is called as education and sanskar. And the second dimension that we would need in the society to achieve this human goal is the health and self-regulation. So here, health we saw is the feeling of responsibility, right? And self-regulation is self-regulation is Sanyam that we spoke about, and health is the actual, nurturing, protection, and right utilization part. Sorry. And the third dimension in the society, which we would need to achieve this goal, is justice and preservation. So justice means having nyaya in relation. Nyaya is that fulfillment in relationships. So that is justice. Fulfillment in relationships means identifying the feelings and then fulfilling those 9 feelings that we spoke about in all the relationships. That is the justice part. Preservation is actually with respect to nature. So for example, here enrichment protection, and right utilization of the resources in the nature that we are consuming for the body. That is about preservation. So in the process of full this gathering the physical facilities that we need for our maintenance of our body, we should also ensure the preservation of the nature. That is about the preservation part. Then the next dimension that we have is the production and work. Production is the process of working with nature. When work is actually, working on to put some physical labor on the nature is defined as work, and what comes out is the produce. So labor we put on nature. For example, you could make pots with clay, or some utensils out of metal. You could make things out of plastic. So we are putting labor on the nature, and what we get out of it is the produce. So these are the things obtained out of, or when we, like for example, when we plant a plant and nurture it and grow it, then we get the fruit and produce out of it, right? So all that is things that we get out of work is production. And the fifth dimension that we need in society is the aspect of Sayam, justice, preservation, and Vinimay and Kosh. So that is exchange and storage. So exchange is exchange of produce to ensure justice, and storage is preservation of the produce for future use. So these are the 5 dimensions of society that we would need to be able to achieve the human goal that we spoke about. That is right understanding in every individual, and prosperity in every family, and fearlessness in society, and coexistence in nature. So that the 5 dimensions that we mentioned are the aspect of education, where we are imparting the right understanding in individuals and enabling them to live in the right way. So that's the sanskar part. So right living is about how to live with this right understanding at all the levels. That is the right living part. And then the next dimension is taking care about the health of the body and nurturing protection of the body. So health systems may include preventive, about knowledge about nurturing, all kinds of aspects of health that we spoke about, like ahar, vihar, chikitsa, aushadhi, etc., all are part of the health dimension. And justice and preservation is about behavior within human behavior. If there is fulfillment, that is justice. Preservation is about the nature part. So in our relationship with nature, if you are maintaining the fulfillment with nature without exploiting nature, there is a beautiful cyclic thing going on in nature. Like for example, water goes from the sea into the clouds, then from the clouds into the rain, into the water, and then the rivers, and then again it goes into the sea. So this cyclic nature, without disturbing this avartanshil process in the nature, making use of the things that are there in the nature for our own health, that is about preservation of the nature. And then production and work. So the effort we put on nature, that is called as work. So we put in a lot of effort, even like working on the even for example, working on house, carpentry, everything. We do work on a lot of material things, right? Even the cars are material, the houses are material, the roads are material, the farm is material, everything is material, nature. So we are putting in effort on the nature, and then we produce some things, whether it is the farm produce or cars that are produced or houses that are produced or any artifacts, gadgets, etc. that we produce. So that's all about production, and these facilities, we need to produce the right kind of things without disturbing that balance in nature to be able to meet our needs for the body. And then exchange and storage. So as of now, if you see, for example, the biggest issue is of distribution. In the world, we are producing food grains almost like 7 times or 8 times. There is a calculation which says that the amount of food that is produced is 7 or 8 times than the need of a human body, an average need of a human body. Whereas if we see, some of them are wasting food, on the other hand, some of them are not getting food. So it's an issue of distribution. It's an issue of relationship between human beings that is causing that some people don't have food and the other have excess food. So the right exchange mechanisms to ensure justice needs to be in place. And then the storage. So preservation also comes into picture, because the produce may not last long. So for example, strawberries are there, we make jam, jelly or something out of it, or some other thing, like from the milk we make butter, ghee, etc. So these are all mechanisms of storage for future use. So all these also would be required to make the right utilization of the produce that we make. This is about the systems in the society that we need to ensure that we reach the goal, that is the right understanding in every individual, prosperity in every family, and fearlessness in society, and coexistence with nature. So with that, I think we ran out of time also. We'll continue in next session on the nature. I mean, I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions. Since we don't have time to take up questions now, please bring all your questions to the discussion sessions. And then tomorrow morning we'll meet with discussion on the nature. Nature is a very interesting thing. So let's discuss on the nature also. Continue tomorrow. And thank you so much for joining, and see you all in the discussion sessions in the evening.